I was listening to a podcast about mental health, and it mentioned that suicide rates for teens was up to 70%, the highest it has ever been. And I wondered how closely it was tied to social media and the digital pressures to be greater than. I can't imagine having MySpace at 8 years old or Instagram in middle school or access to so much information that young. When I think about my challenges and the way that I deal with stress today, it made me think about Generation Z, those born between 1995 and 2010, and how they're dealing with it. So with all of the school shootings and the increased suicide rates, I hardly ever see young Black women in the forefront of the conversation. This episode is the platform for young Black women of Generation Z to talk about their challenges, processes, and needs. So in this episode, you'll meet 3 young Black women who are not afraid to tell me how they're feeling and what they need. I was listening to this podcast, and it talked about how there was this guy who was on Super Soul Sunday, and he was talking about how suicide rates between like 17 and 22 is up 70% in the last 5 years. And I was like, whoa. It made me want to just have a conversation with people that age. I mean, I'm 29, about to be 30 by the time this comes out. And so maybe want to have a conversation. I feel so far removed from your experience. And a lot of, my peers are too, right? And so especially if we don't work at colleges or we don't engage with you on a regular basis, I just want to know like how you're feeling, how you're doing, what you're needing, how you're managing stress, right? Do you all put like pressure on yourselves? Does it come from the outside? Like
more than likely. I find that pressure always comes from myself because I don't allow myself to I don't allow myself to be surrounded by people who will conflict with me, my ideas, because I'm already the type to get inside my head. So, I mean, granted, I don't want to be surrounded by yes people, but people who will challenge me and who also see that same potential that I don't see in myself sometimes.
How do you know that they'll be that person?
I don't befriend people very easily. And I honestly don't know, but the people who I have allowed in my life, I've just been blessed for them to be genuine and authentic and really want the best for me. And then also I'm really observant, like who are you to your friends? Like how do I see you interact with other people? Because I feel like people tell you or show you who they are when you first meet them. It's just, are you seeing what you want to see or who they really are showing you to be? So,
I'm like thinking, everybody does that first time. I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's mostly for myself. Also, I think it's growing older and realizing some of the pressures that were put on me, and I didn't recognize them as pressures. I just recognized them as parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I could say now that there was a lot of pressure that I just didn't notice at that time, and a lot of times those conversations were, well, you need to have to want this for yourself. So I didn't see it as directly from them, but it was as well. So yeah, it's just I feel like I exist in intersectionality, so I'm always trying to fight against the stereotypes against so many of my identities.
Yeah, talk about those.
So like, I identify as Black first, but then being biracial in my life and being adopted into an all Black family and having that disconnect, there was a huge identity crisis I experienced in my teenage years. And then, being queer and coming out as that when I lived in a household that was very Baptist and very Southern. That's a whole other thing, I feel like I'm fighting, the gay fight as well. I feel like I'm fighting the Black fight. I feel like I'm fighting the woman fight. I'm fighting the fat fight, being a plus size woman, what that means when someone sees me and how they experience me. I just feel like my identities, I'm constantly fighting to beat what someone might feel about them. So it mostly comes from myself, depression.
How does that impact you, like on a daily basis? Do you feel like does that feel like a barrier sometimes?
Oh,
the
yes.
fight?
Oh, not every day, but there are spans of time where, every day I wish I wasn't all of them. It would be easier to just not be all of them.
I can definitely relate to being queer and being Black and being a woman and like really like for me, my biggest challenge is just like I deal with body dysmorphia and I would get a lot of judgment from that. Like Black girls shouldn't feel that way. Like Black girls are supposed to, and it's like I'm not supposed to do anything but feel how I feel. But I didn't know that until I got, until last year. I wasn't dealing with that. So my dealing with that was like eating all my feelings, isolating myself and things like that. But that's how I was dealing with my stress and how I was dealing with my fights. So have you all ever felt like that before? Like feel like you're fighting?
Because I'm no good to anyone if I'm not good to myself. So I really just started
There's some people that need to hear that. Yeah.
Like I just really had to be vigilant and really aware of who I was, because I do want to leave a mark on this world. And it's really, really important for me to, I don't want to say be my best self all the time because that's unfair to myself, but to put my best foot forward. Like,
you're really wise. Because I was like very hard worker. I think that I've done a lot in my time here, but I just was never satisfied, like ever. And I'm still working through that, but I was always like questioning, is this enough? Am I doing enough? Because I would put pressure on myself, like, I gotta leave a legacy. I gotta make sure that millions of people know what I'm doing, but in a way that's like impactful. And so to hear you say that at your age is like really beautiful. Because I was like, I'm still working through those things.
And I would definitely say the same thing. I would say the biggest fight that I experienced in my own life is this idea of your inner world versus your outer world. Like there's this quote that I like, I want to live in the world and not in my head, because a lot of times I feel like I'm like a very introverted person. There's this thing called highly sensitive people. And I think I'm one of those, and you're just very sensitive to things going on in the world. Like you said, you're very sensitive to very sensitive to people's emotions. Like you take those on. And I feel like a lot of times I don't take the same time to understand like how I feel, and you see like how other people react to certain things, like kind of take those on instead of figuring out how I genuinely feel about something. And so I think that's something I'm trying to figure out now is removing yourself from a lot of spaces to really figure out like, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? How do I feel about certain things? And then like shaping my life around that.
What your life looks like does not look the same for someone else.
Because I got on social media like MySpace, Facebook when I was
on MySpace?
MySpace was
everything.
Yeah, I was on MySpace. I was like 14.
Yes.
I thought I was. Wow.
That was 5th grade going into middle school, and then
5th grade on MySpace?
Yes.
And the music and the code on there.
Yeah. That little music player.
Yeah, and we had to redo your page
every
week.
9 and 10 years old on MySpace. That's so interesting.
And my playlist was jumping.
Wow, look at how our energy changes when we think about those days. It seems like they were like more fun and more carefree, but continue.
I would say so social media I always think is like a coming of age thing for me. So I was definitely like sharing my experiences just on chatting with my like classmates and stuff like that, just talking about dumb stuff. But I would definitely say like like more face-to-face interactions, more like quality time playing outside with my friends in my neighborhood, my cousins. But then afterwards it's kind of like you were saying, like this need to always share something or feel like you need to share something about your life online instead of just experiencing it and having it for yourself. And so I think that being instilled at a very young age has like shaped a lot of my like young adult life.
What do you think, what do you want for yourself? Like if you think about 25 or 30, like what does that look like for you all? So I'll tell you why I'm asking. I'm asking because I don't think a lot about you all, your age group, when I'm doing my work. So that's why I wanted to have the conversation, because it's like, it can't just be about me. Like my work cannot just be about me. It can't just be about my peers. My work has to be about women like you all, right? And like, as I listen to your challenges, it's like, how can I use my work to support you? So that's why I'm asking. Yeah. So in that context, like, maybe I could just ask that. Like, what do you think you need as you get older and you grow more into your 20s? Like, what do you want from the people ahead of you all?
I would just say guidance. Or from older generations, grow with the times. Because I'm finding it that
we was just having this
conversation
earlier, yes.
Because we have options now and we have a choice.
More resources.
Yeah, so it's just like I get it and I respect it because you came from a different time, and I understand the level of privilege that I have now to some extent when it comes to my career choice and the life that I want to live. But times have changed. It's not the way that it used to be.
And we need to just roll with it, right? Like,
yeah.
But I think the only way we can do that is to know where you're at, right? And to know where you're at, to be open and to be willing to listen, right? And so what do you need?
I would say just more people who are living authentically and genuinely, like openly talking about stuff like that. Because I feel like I was saying earlier, being like a highly sensitive person, someone who's very attuned to how other people are feeling, like I feel like I see through a lot of the facade that a lot of people put on. And so it's just like, why is nobody talking about, you know, the fact that you're facing depression and not talking about it, or the fact that you're facing like separation anxiety or mourning the loss of your family members and stuff like that, like having those open conversations. Because it makes you feel like you're alone in that journey when you see like no one else is like going through the same thing. You feel like no one else is going through the same thing. So I would definitely ask like from older generations that to just be more authentic and like openly authentic. Because I know like, even in my own journey, like it's scary to do that, but it's definitely necessary to like let other people know that they aren't facing things alone.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's like very, very important.
Like, probably support, and then kind of piggybacking off what you said. I feel like older generations sometimes get to this point where they're like, I don't have to learn anything anymore because I've already done this. I've already accomplished these like huge, you know, goals, like getting a job or something like that. Or even I hear my friends, you know, I can't wait till I'm old and I don't have to apologize for anything and I can say whatever I want. You know, this idea that because you're older, you get a pass to just be whoever you are, no matter if it's mean or if it's, you know, like there has to be no excuse for an older person. So I wish that, you know, that they were willing to learn and accept that not only do we have choices, but we also have different challenges that they have not experienced, and that doesn't take away from the challenges that they had to endure. It's just a new set of challenges that that they haven't experienced yet, but that they can learn about to actually help us.
Yes. And like it's not like I did it this way, so you have to do it the same way. Like go on to those days. Like so yes, I love that.
That's a big thing.
I had no idea how this conversation was going to go with these women. I had no idea what they had been through. I had no idea what they needed from us, millennials. And I walk away from this conversation with so much faith and confidence in our future, knowing that these are the type of women that will be taking the helms, and that these are the type of women who are going to be running this country. And I am so grateful to have sit down with them. The future is bright because of them. For more episodes of The World Is Ours, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy.